I am Marwan Cameron, and this is The Conduit. All right, everyone, we are back. We are back. It is Tipping Points and Puzzle Pieces. You know the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Boatwright-Frost. How you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing exceptionally well, thank you.
Fantastic.
How about yourself?
You know, I'm doing pretty good. You know, blessed and highly favored, which definitely takes on special meaning on harder days than others.
Yep.
You know, just working through tough conversations and life and just all those things, but trying to be grateful and blessed at the same time. And so, you know, we're here, we're ready to get at it. So let's jump in.
Gratitude is so important. And I want to talk about a little bit. I want to start the program talking a little bit about the greater community and our Community Champions program. Because we haven't talked about that, I don't think, at all on Tipping Points and Puzzle Pieces. And as you know, there's other things I want to talk about. But I spent a lot of this morning talking to people who are on our Champions page on the website. And I went by Cookies today, the pet supply over in Port Orchard. And we've been working on building a program around this to really uplift people who work for the community. And I talked to the guy there, and he says, yeah, absolutely include us in this. And when he says include us in this, he is actively supporting the Kitsap Resiliency Project and the concept of building communities. And he said, the only thing is I don't want to lift myself above other people. And I thought that was a very interesting statement, that he doesn't want to put anybody down to lift himself up. But this man works tirelessly to help people who have pets in the community. Recently, he gave us a whole bunch of treats for the barbecue for the animals, so that the furred people at your barbecue would also have treats. He has, I know, worked with the community to help people with shortfalls, feed their animals. He's just good people. All of his staff are really good people. And so we like to uplift him, but I like the idea that he wants to be known as a good place to go, but he doesn't want to put other people down to do it. And I like that. That shows just how much he is part of the greater community. Then I went down to Colello's, and I don't know if you know Colello's. It's a produce stand that's open all but like 2 months of the year in Port Orchard. It's down past Fred Meyer on Bethel.
Okay.
I go there because they have like the best produce in Kitsap County.
Really?
And I go, and they also right now are selling starts for gardens, which is a big point for what you guys have been, what we talked about at your barbecue, is that you know, gardens are going to be vitally important. And I found out some more from Rob, who owns Colello's, is that the frost that has happened unseasonably this year has shorted the ability for farmers to grow in eastern Washington. So we're going to have a food shortage in Washington state because the frost killed a lot of the plants.
Wow.
So we already have food shortages because of the Texas customs issue. We already have food shortages because of the super drought in California that nobody's talking about. We are having more food shortages around the country because of weather changes and around the country. And here in Washington state, we're going to have food shortages because of weather changes in Washington state. So community gardens are become more and more vital. So here's my pitch for Colello's. They have starts. We actually just bought two tomato plants from them. And starts that we're going to put in the ground out front so that we can have fresh tomatoes. We're actually putting our garden in the next week.
Oh, nice.
Terry's doing a lot of planning for that. We don't have a lot of space, but we're going to build above ground containers, and we're going to start doing more gardening here As you know, I cook, so having things like basil and cilantro and dill make life easier for me. And I don't particularly like going to the store. And a lot of the stuff you get at the supermarket is of questionable quality. I mean, I've gotten stuff that looked good home, and 2 days later it's gone. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not because we used it. So I talked to the other thing about Cololos is that we bent over backwards to do everything we could for people when COVID happened, to make sure that people got food, to make sure that people had every safety chance they could pick up stuff and everything else. But now that COVID's mostly over, we're not seeing customers.
Mm.
And so I just want to say this, and this wasn't him complaining. He's just speaking the truth, his truth. And I want to say that, there are businesses in our community that work tirelessly to support the community. They do good all the time, not because they're promoting themselves, but because it's in their DNA. Much like you do G2 and you work on our board of directors and we do resilient ecosystems, it's in our DNA, the DNA to do the work. We do it because we're called to. All of the champions on the Kitsap Resiliency or the Reseco page are champions in our community. But champions don't do it by themselves. And everybody in our conversation is saying, yeah, people are all thinking that there's no time. So I can't drive out to Cololos. But they think that they're the only ones doing it, but they aren't the only ones doing it. Everyone's doing it because it's more convenient to go to one of the supermarkets.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to support our community, and the food is better and more nutritious. It's better just to do it to support our community people, especially when they work to support you. So ask the question: what big supermarket has done anything for you or your community, other than give lip service?
Well, from an organizational standpoint, some of them do contribute to our food program, so I can't say they've done nothing.
Yeah. Okay.
To do more, I'd have to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah, as another nonprofit, I have applied for grants to several of them for the community grants to do work,
Mm-hmm.
and they always seem to have just either spent or don't have grants going this year.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, and we've done this several times with many of them, and that's kind of the thing going on. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But going back to Cololos, I do want to remind everybody that they have starts, and it's a good place to go to get your garden started. It helps you skip that whole seed stage.
In our audience can type in the address to Cololos. That'd be awesome. So there's folks in the chat, saying, yeah, that they're awesome. I know about them.
Yeah, and if you go to the Kitsap Resiliency Project page on Facebook, we frequently post things that they've got going on around food. So, and the Reverend thinks that we aren't going live, so we need to fix that.
But we're live now. Like you're asking us in a live event.
Okay, I am putting the address in now. Sorry, I scanned away. Here's the address for you to put up.
Oh, perfect. Oh, look at you. Your skills are growing. I love it. Perfect. Let me go ahead and put that in there. So that is the address. So it's good to shout out good community partners. I love that.
Yeah, and we have 6 or 7, and they're more growing. We're waiting for answers from like 4 or 5 companies that do a lot of good work, but they're very busy at this time of year trying to get everything together. So go to our champions page and take a look at that. That was something I just wanted to call out. But we all have to use our power of action because it matters.
So Mark, I'm pretty. So can you tell me what starts are? And others in the audience that might not know, you said that and I just kind of nod and smile. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty.
Okay, starts are they've grown plants to a certain stage for you, so you can transplant them into your garden.
Oh, wow.
We just got a foot tall tomato plant that we're going to put in the ground, and that means that we'll have tomatoes in a month or so.
I think that's what I need. I need starts. I don't need to start from the seeds. And
you need to go over and go shopping at Cololos and buy a flat of starts to put into your garden.
All right. Well, the people there. Why don't you see if I can come out there with my camera and get a couple starts? I think that would be fantastic.
I'd be happy to. Matter of fact, I'd love to meet you out there, and
Kind of
you
teach
can
me.
see what they have. Yeah, I can show you what they've got. Right now, they're a little low on produce, but they've got a whole bunch of starts because that's their focus at this time of year, is to get people plants growing in their gardens.
Oh
So
yeah.
let's talk about a cycle. I mean, and I know there's some people watching this program that want me to talk about affordable housing, low income housing stuff, and we will get there. But I want to talk about this first because food is as important as housing in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so let's paint a picture of a sharing community, and let's talk about it in the capitalistic sense of things. I mean, not the big capitalistic with corporations and stock changes and everything, because I'm not entirely certain that's relevant capitalism to most of us. Let's talk about, okay, so Eastern Washington's freeze is going to strain food supply, and a lot of what Colello's gets is local or Washington-based food. Okay.
Okay.
So let's say we have a whole bunch of community gardens. Let's say your neighborhood manages to get those plots of land available and starts growing food. They're going to grow more food than they have the ability to use on 3 plots of land. So what if there's a deal with Colello's so that they buy whatever produce is over what you are growing?
Oh, nice.
And sells it to the greater community. Then you create a cycle of self-supporting the entire community through your little effort in your garden.
Mm-hmm.
And think about, I don't know if you have neighbors that grow zucchini. I've had lots of neighbors that grow zucchini. And zucchini is one of those things, is when it kicks, it's like, overproduces tremendously. We used to joke about the person growing zucchini and them dropping baskets and running at your doorstep full of zucchini. And finding recipes for zucchini bread, zucchini, this, zucchini that. By the way, I use zucchini for lasagna instead of
Mm-hmm.
noodles. I slice
I've
it
had
thin
it
and
that
use
way
it.
before. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lots of ways you can use zucchini that most people don't think of. I make zucchetti all the time, which is using zucchini as spaghetti.
Zucchetti.
Zucchetti. So
That's
so the point is, we can create our own small industries. We just have to think about it.
mm-hmm.
And this is and about our Food for All project that we're trying to get off the ground, and we are getting off the ground. So I'm not going to say trying; we are actually getting it off the ground. We're going to be working on the Power for All, which are all pieces of it. And now let's shift over a little bit to Shelter for All, because that's an ongoing complex. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, because you were talking about sell the overage back to the store. Would another option be or
Give it to the food banks?
Or no, I was going to say set up a barter system. So if there's another community garden that doesn't grow zucchini, then we exchange the overage for potatoes. Because they have
strawberries.
Yeah, or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. But there has, and actually, I talked to Stephanie at G2 a little bit about this yesterday. Is centralizing information so people have the ability to do that, to create a barter system. I know Kids Up Fresh was working on something like that a while back. At least I think they were, and other people like KCAA were working on that. But nobody even knows who they exist. Matter of fact, I was at a meeting with KCAA, and they threw out a statistic that blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know the source material for this, so don't quote me on it and say, oh, well, Mark said. But they said at the point that only 3% of the people in Kitsap County even know that farmers markets exist.
3%?
3%.
That seems low. I can imagine, whatever the number is, I would assume that it's pretty low, because they could be frequented more, and that they take EBT, which is phenomenal.
Yes. So, and by the way, you can use EBTs to get starter plants to grow your own food.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, I need to go ahead.
Because it's producing your own food.
That's huge. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that's just an incredible benefit. You can grow your own garden and feed yourself with your EBT card.
Did you know that? You can use your EBT card to get starts, like tomato plants, and grow your own food. Wow. Yeah, isn't that cool? See? You just taught 2 people something that we didn't know.
and something
That's
you
the
can
whole
pass
point.
on to other people.
Well, that's what I did live on
Yeah.
air. You know, no,
Yep.
and that's how this is supposed to work, right? That's the whole
Right.
point of this. I love it. So go ahead. I digress. I interrupted you there.
Oh, it's okay. So these are important things to people know. We have to centralize the information so we can start getting people using it, but we have to drive people to use the information sources. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a piece. And I know that Rev is working on your website, and I know that Stephanie mentioned that you're going to be putting up how to find nonprofits and sources for things that you need
Mm-hmm.
on the site. I think that's a great place. Now we have to figure out how to market it to get people to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
And
So
stay tuned.
we're
This
shifting.
will be up in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So we are now half an hour into this, and I wanted to switch over because I want to talk about an epiphany I had yesterday while driving your van out to Seaback, and I mean way the heck out in Seaback, to a place where I told Stephanie I hear banjos playing. For those of you who get that reference. So as I was driving out there, I was thinking about this, and I realized that and Marwan and I briefly talked about this before we went live. So I want to preface this. Perspective isn't a powerful thing. It can prevent you from seeing truth, or it can free your mind to change the world.
Mm.
And let me give an example of this, and I'm going to try and do this in a way so you understand. So understand that this is me trying to communicate something that you may or may not understand. So I'll try and give a lot of context to it. So recently there was an article, and there have been many articles in the last year or two about homeless camps being cleared. And on Facebook, the entire spectrum of posts go out about great, our property values will go out. It's time to get the trash out, blah, 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 to, oh my God, that's so horrible and inhumane and what you're doing. And all of these things go out on Facebook. And so those are mirrors of perspective that people have about the homeless issue. None of those perspectives actually address the cause and effect. And then I had another thought that went along with it. For a person who's homeless and in one of those encampments, and I'm going to say this and I'm going to give context to it, so don't jerk your knees. To them, it's just another Wednesday. It's just the way life is. They don't have any control over their lives. They have been horribly othered, and they've been painted with drug addict, waste of time, inhuman. Don't think about them, but we don't think about our role in creating homelessness in a situation that goes along with homelessness. And the lack of control they have. And Marwan pointed out when I mentioned that to him, that some of these people have been in these encampments for months. They have created bonds with other people and created little communities in these encampments to cross support, and then they get cleared and they're back to stage one. Mm-hmm. And they have no resources, and they are not treated as people by us, even the ones who are horrified, and go and feed them and do great things to help them. We aren't really addressing the situation that created it. And the situation that created it is affecting us all. It's what's keeping us one paycheck away from poverty and homelessness ourselves. It's a situation where we have been promised a lot of things in this country if we do the right things and go through the right things, go through the right process, do all of the things that we're told we need to do, that we will have jobs and everything else. But that doesn't take into account how many jobs we've shipped offshore for corporate profitability. Mm. And it doesn't account for the fact that our money has gone off of a standard that was set for that, the gold standard was set for it, to a manufacturing standard, to a service standard, to a real estate standard, to no standard at all. So we are skating on very thin ice, and we're othering people who have already been affected by it when we're next. You know, that poem that I constantly repeat is first they came for the Jews, then they came for the communists, then they came for, X and Y and Z. But I didn't speak out because, I'm not a communist, I'm not black, I'm not Japanese, I'm not Jewish. And then they came for me and there was no one left to speak out. We're there, folks. I saw an article this morning by Congressman or Senator Jeff Hawley, a really warm and wonderful human being. I'm being incredibly sarcastic. And they're looking to take away the copyrights from Disney because Disney is, and this is a quote from him, a woke company. So Mickey Mouse may suddenly, Disneyland might lose the early Mickey Mouse because they take away the copyrights. Now, making that happen is a whole other thing. And then there's the whole DeSantis attack on Disney because Disney called them out for their attack on gay people. Now we've seen that we've all, I think, heard the recent news about the leaked document from the Supreme Court in Roe versus Wade. What's next? They're coming for the women, but I'm not a woman, so I didn't speak out. They're coming for the LGBTQ community, but I'm not gay, so I didn't speak out. McCarthyism isn't dead. It's alive and living in this country, and we need to wake up and address it. And that's part of what's creating the homelessness. We're othering them, we're othering everybody else, so we're not paying attention to the cause of the lack of jobs, the increasing homelessness, the increasing poverty, the increasing risk to every one of us. So, yeah, homelessness is about perspective and understanding that people who are homeless it's not necessarily their fault. They're not all drug addicts, at least not when they start. But I had a conversation with somebody 8 years ago that started me on this path of thinking that we were talking about drug addiction. And he says, people take drugs because this culture is not meant for human beings to live in. We can't win. We have to do something to dull the pain. So that's a thought. Now, going on to the other two sides of that, homelessness is partly created because we don't have affordable housing and we don't have low-income housing. It's not being really developed, and everyone's shrugging their shoulders and moving on. And this is not belittling what Bremerton Housing Authority is doing or Kitsap Community Resources. They're doing as much as they possibly can with the tools that they have and the rules that they have. They need help from us, all of us, the greater community, coming together and finding solutions. So I'm putting a challenge out there today. This has been in the background. Marwan and I have talked about it. I'm actively putting together a group of people to brainstorm solutions, prioritize the ones that are best, and then find a way to make them happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to sit down and go outside of the box and start thinking. I am in the process now of identifying people. We're going to be inviting some people from the KRC, from the Bremerton Housing Authority who sit on board. We have to have them on board. At some point, we'll bring some people from the city of Bremerton and the county in about zoning, probably as an advisory because I don't see them really helping with the brainstorming piece of it. But what we want is people to come up with ideas, and there are a lot of ideas out there. We need to learn how to implement them. And that's part of this thing. It's just not throwing ideas on the board. It's saying, okay, next, what do we have to do to make this happen? What resources do we have to bring together? How can we make this happen? Let's go through the entire process of seeing what we can do to create low-income housing and drive affordable housing in the county, because that'll start mitigating some of the homeless issues.
I've got a lot of thoughts on that. So
that's why I'm expecting you to be on the panel.
This is since we're having controversial conversation, you've said a few controversial things earlier. For me, my father taught me that charity starts at home. And while it is a tragedy on what is happening in some of the other countries, I am vehemently against the $40 billion that Congress just approved for the war, right? It's a proxy war. We're in war with or at war with Russia. But charity starts at home, and so to give $40 billion when we are having folks that are being displaced in homeless encampments, we have folks that are hungry. I've done some podcasts earlier where as deplorable as it is here in this county, when you look at some areas in Philadelphia or California, New York, Texas, I mean, there's some horrific, um, imagery of so many that are homeless. And if you look, it's like we're crabs in a pot, right? Metaphorically, where it's just this slow boil. And so we don't see it, but you see more and more storage units being erected. Why? Because people can't stay in the places that they're in, right? We're in this recession. We're having record gas prices. We're having food shortages. We're still dealing with the pandemic. We have all these things, but yet all of a sudden Congress can whip up all this money and enact an act that's only been used once in U.S. history to allow these things to happen while we're suffering. And I was just kind of doing the math really quick on that, and it's like, hey, $40 billion. If I just, that's 10 zeros. That's a phenomenal amount of money. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, divided by $150,000. If a home was 150,000, we could provide 266,666 homes by doing that. Single family units. We're not even talking about multifamily units. And so charity really does need to start at home. If we're going to do that, as you said, it feels like we're swimming in quicksand. KCR, they are doing what they can. Bremerton Housing Authority, they are doing what they can, but they get their marching orders from HUD and, from up on high. And so it's just not a priority. We allow these things to happen. One of the things that, when these ideas are generated, I don't think that it should be, you had mentioned this before, lawful for people to profit off of, basic needs, housing, food, things of that nature. So to have all these businesses.
And I think the commodity market needs to be destroyed. I think it needs to be torn down. The Koch brothers made their fortune on manipulating the prices of oil.
Not surprising.
Yeah. So the commodity market made those, the people who are trying to take away everyone's rights in Kansas and across the country and are running right-wing think tanks to do just exactly that, to take away our rights, made their money on oil prices on the commodities market.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it should be abolished.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So why allow these commercial entities to buy up all these properties and then raise the rent? It's ridiculous.
There was an article just recently about that, where major corporations are going through and buying up low-income housing and then starting to raise the rent on everybody.
Yeah.
We need to. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen here. And it's going to require a grassroots network. You've heard me say that every single podcast. We need to come together, build a grassroots network, and push the agenda of human rights. We, the people, you're right. Absolutely right. We, the people, need to come together and do this. So where are y'all? Waiting for it to come to you because you're not black, you're not LGBTQ, you're not a woman who needs an abortion, you're not impoverished, you're not currently homeless. You're sitting at home, it's not about me. But it is, isn't it? Because everyone is at risk. Every single one of you is at risk. Over half the country is one paycheck away from poverty or homelessness. Mm-hmm. One paycheck. Any hiccup, and it's done. And we're not even talking about things like, climate change and the increasing food prices, which is going to put you even closer to the edge, or the ever-increasing ridiculous home prices. And I'm going to give a little context here. I lived in Silicon Valley and worked in Silicon Valley for a while. Home prices were ridiculous. But even before that, I grew up in Newport Beach, California. Newport Beach is a very affluent area. And I watched people buy really nice homes just to have another development block their view and another development block their view. And there was a huge battle between Joan Irvine, who is the daughter of the Irvine family, and the rest of the corporation, the Irvine Ranch Corporation, to stop that she wanted to stop the development and keep the area pristine. Well, she eventually lost. And if you go down there now, the entire area is paved over, and you can drive down the Coast Highway, and you will not see the beach or the ocean from the Coast Highway all the way down to Dana Point because it's all condos now.
Mm.
Places I used to go walking through the fields and climbing down the cliffs to go diving or riding horses is now all condos. All. Little flash forward a little bit in Silicon Valley. I had a woman next to me in a cube. She was in her 20s when I was working at Cisco Systems. And I listened to her talk to a real estate agent about how to convert her options of stock. This is not even owning the stock. This is options of the stock. How to buy a home she could not afford in Silicon Valley using stock options. And this is a year before the dot-com bust, where everybody lost everything. I am just watching the real estate and the fact that you could not live in Silicon Valley and work there. People were going out farther to Tracy, to Livermore, to all the way out to the I-5 corridor, where they got BART going in and out. They were commuting 3 or 4 hours to get to their jobs because they could not afford to live where they work. Look around Kitsap County. We already are in a position where people can't work and live here because the prices are going up and up and up. This is a reality that's happened in Seattle, San Francisco, Dallas, New York. Every major city in the country has priced out the people who work there. No, and do we have an endless supply of rich people to buy these homes? Because that's the next question.
If I can jump in, one of the things that I see as a concern is this, gather together, grow together is one of the buying force that helps with eviction assistance, right? And, at 3 p.m., everyone should tune in because you do want to apply. The Section 8 is going to open up here on Monday. So you do need to sign up for Rent Cafe if you haven't done that. My issue is everyone who gets help now, applause, right? Great. You help someone stay in their home. You help the family stay in their home. You help the individual stay in their home. And that can't be discounted. That often is. It's like, oh, it's families or women. It's like, hey, there's a bunch of men that are out here that need homes also, right? And when society gives up on folks, they tend to make some bad choices. So, you want to encourage them to not feel out of desperation, society doesn't care and I will victimize whoever, right? I mean, all these things really do go together. But my whole point of this is on the other side of it, right? There is no more help on the other side of it. So once you've received this help and the money runs out, right? And we're also in an election year, it's projected that Republicans are probably going to retake the House, right? And even if they don't, right? I think Democrats are going to say the same thing. We don't have the money to continue to help our own people stay housed in the crazy housing prices, right? So
but we have $40 billion,
which is gone. And so it's actually, there's some validity in that argument, right? We can't just keep printing money. And we throw money at things in the wrong way. We don't actually address the issue. It's putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. And then we're like, well, I don't know why things aren't changing. But there are going to be so many folks right now that are currently housed. They're going to find themselves going through the eviction process within the next year or two, right? Because, okay, you got your rent paid up and that's great, but you were already in a position where you couldn't pay your rent. So now what? When that net is over and it's at the end, what are you going to do? And it's going to be
we have no jobs
and tens of thousands of people doing it. And it's not it's not a family wage job anyway, right?
Right. It's a $15 to $17 an hour job. And as we did the math last week, you need $25 to $28 an hour just to break even. As I said, Princeton University said 48,000. I'm guessing that was a few years ago. It's probably 50,000 or better now.
And I just, when we have these conversations, it's like, yeah, people have to do, what they have to do and do the best they can. So, I encourage people to be proactive. This is the time to get some training, to get some new education, to learn a vocation, to look and see what are those green jobs, what are jobs that are going to be high in demand going forward, because this is the time. Is once this
Yep.
resource dries up, and we don't know what tomorrow's going to look like anyway. But war is not a temporary thing, right? You're not investing $40 billion for something to end in a few months. Matter of fact, I think what I was reading from on whitehouse.gov, I think a good portion of that money is going to be expended from those resources within 6 months, right?
Yep.
We've already
Well,
given money. That's why we're here at another bite of the apple.
Do you remember the numbers from Afghanistan or Iraq? They were like billions of dollars a day. So $40 billion would be like less than a week of Iraq. Might even been 2 or 3 days. So, we look at these numbers for war, but that's benefiting the industrial complex, the military industrial complex, but it's not doing anything else. And most of that stuff is not produced here in the United States, which does not give us jobs, even though we may not want a job with an arms manufacturer. But we are not supporting our we're delusional. We're not supporting the people in this country. We're not creating jobs for them. And we need to start doing this on a local level. It's about us working together locally. I can't fix what's going on in other states and other counties, but I can sure as hell work to fix it here. And there are solutions to this, and there's solutions and pieces of the puzzle that Marwan and I don't have that you do. So show up. Go to the Kitsap Resiliency page, and when we post an event, show up at the event. It doesn't matter if it's not even something in your interest. Ask us questions, challenge us, and give us a chance to talk to you. Give us a chance to hear you and hear your story and what's important to you, because that goes into the pot to figure out what the solution is. If we don't know what it is, we can't help with the solution. And it isn't about Marwan and I. We're just the front of this. It's about you, because you're the ones lifting it all up. You have to show up. We, the people. You need to show up because you're one of the people.
And more than that, even if you don't know what your place is or how you're going to contribute, the support is important. I was just having this conversation earlier with Sabrina. And sometimes you need that encouragement from others to lift you up when you're thinking, why the hell? Why should I continue to pour into, something that's not likely to work out, right? A lot of folks are blinded or ignorant, can't feel like they're powerless and there's nothing they can do about it, so they don't try. And
including Marwan and I.
Yes.
We have bad days.
Yes.
And a message from one of you saying, I'm really happy that you said that, makes a whole lot of difference to Marwan and I.
Yeah. We're watching folks that, that I think do good work in the community pass away. And it's like, so what is the legacy? What has changed? How do we change the hearts of other folks and start gathering we the people to actually be the change that we want to see, right? We need to come together, and it's so important. We're at a precipice right now where I'm hoping that it's not too late, which is why I continue to pour into this and sacrifice and keep getting up every morning and do it. But, even when I started G2, folks were telling me, like, why the hell would you put all this money into helping these strangers? And, again, what they say about many of the homeless, folks that are, they've made their own decisions. I hear, a lot of times liberals will say the talking point, if this person lost their job for a fault not their own, it's like, why do you even need to put the, when it wasn't their fault in there? Why does that qualifier need to be in there, right? So
nobody chooses to be homeless.
Yeah, just show up. It helps definitely to keep us going. It helps to keep us going and to continue to gather others to us. I mean, there's times when it's like, why? Let me just focus on my daughter, focus on those that are really close to me, and kind of like the hell with everyone else. They want it, let them eat cake. I don't know what that's from, but
that Marie Antoinette and the Napoleonic Wars, but it's actually misquoted. Cake is the bottom of the barrel. Really, that's in the terms of what they were actually speaking of, is let them eat cake is the bottom of the barrel, the dregs left over after everything's been taken out.
Got you. Got you.
But we've made it sound like she's saying,
Yes.
lemon chiffon cake,
Yeah, mhm.
But yeah, just show up because it makes a big difference. Marwan and I do this literally 7 days a week. We are never not working. Okay. And we work together because I work with G2 and as a driver 2 days a week, sometimes more. And Marwan is the president of our board of directors because he cares and we see how the synergy works here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our story, and we do this every day. When you hear us talk about community champions, I do not want you to get the wrong idea. We aren't going to these people and saying, "Hey, subscribe to this, and we're gonna highlight you." These are actually people who do the work. We don't want any money from them. We want them to be highlighted because they do important work for the community, and they need to be supported by the community, which is, by the way, you. So we want you to support the people who have been supporting you without asking anything from you.
Yeah.
And it's going to set a model. When we start doing that together, things get better. We create this thing called synergy, where the outcome is far greater, exponentially greater than the sum of its parts. But the parts have to be there. Show up.
To that end, if I may, COVID was devastating, right? So many folks lost their lives, they lost their businesses, they lost their homes, and we're still in it. And we weren't immune to the effects of COVID either, right? I mean, we had to do whatever we had
twice.
To do.
And Marwan had it twice.
Yeah, yeah. Well, to keep our doors open from an organizational standpoint, we never shut down during COVID. And we were able to provide and serve. But that in part was because of the relationships that we built and continue to build during COVID, right? That allowed us to thrive and be resilient, which I love that, and that really is what it is. And so we have to continue to capitalize on that and continue to cultivate those relationships. So with my team, I'm on them all the time. And it's like, look, you got to check in with the people that, that you work with, so, a shout out to Franz, let me give them a horn. They give us bread every Monday to give out to families and use in our meals. And right now they're not able to do that. Right. But we still want to check in on them and just say, hey, we appreciate you, even if you can't currently do it right now, and create new relationships and new partnerships. And so, you see me covering events and different opportunities that I wouldn't normally, participate in. But that's because that allows me to meet someone like Mark. And then now we've got a partnership and we're doing these things and we're growing. So it's important to walk the talk and talk the walk, and just and be encouraged, right? And then being there when you're down, that person may be up. And if you're both down together, then you're not alone, right? And you still know that you're going in the same direction, even when there's times that you want to throw in the towel. So, as you can see,
Yep.
I'm more emotionally depleted than I normally am, but I'm here, suited and booted, ready to go, and that's really what it's about. And I can do that because of Mark and the Sabrinas and the Robs and the organization and the people that we serve, right? And that. This too shall pass, but you have to be of action while you're going through it, right? And build.
Absolutely. And so I'm going to continue the two challenges here. In the chat, you'll see my email address, mark@reseco.org. So here's the first challenge, and I'm challenging people, or you can message me on Facebook. I'm challenging people to send an email telling me about who you are and why you want to be on the housing board the housing panel we're putting together to brainstorm this stuff, because we are putting it together right now, and there's a lot of work going on in the background about that. The second challenge I have is we have the Kitsap Resiliency Project page, and that has a lot of the information, a lot of the events. I challenge you to bring us 100 new likes and follows on that page.
What?
Yeah, I want 100 new likes and follows by the end of the month. So 2 weeks.
Nice.
And so I get out there and get people to go look at the page and get to know what we're doing, because that's where we post the events. That's where we post the notices. That's where we post all of the tipping points and puzzle pieces. As we go forward, you will see a lot of information there. We put articles up all the time that are useful. We will introduce you to YouTube people that are phenomenal, like Bo of the Fifth Column, who's one of the best analysts I've ever seen. Provides source material so you know it's not just BS and opinion. There are people like Matt Farrell, who talks about things you don't know about power and engineering. There's just a lot of good stuff we put up there, and understand we filter all of it so that we put only the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget to subscribe to the Conduit.
Yes.
And hit the notification bell so you never miss out on a show. We will do more in the future. We weren't able to go out and actually film our go bag. We will get around to it, but that may not air at our normal time. So if there's something else that airs, if I end up at a farmer's market or out at is it Cabela's?
Colello's.
You know, it may not be at our normal show time. So hit that reminder so you have it, subscribe, share it out, let other people do that. That is one of the biggest ways that you can help us to grow and be resilient and not sustainable, right? We can only do it with you, we the people together. So please do that.
Oh, and final note, we still need a community ambassador for this month.
Oh yeah.
We've got something going in June, but we don't have one for this month yet.
That's right.
So step up and become a community ambassador, get your neighborhood, and Marwan and I will show up and flip burgers.
The team will come and flip burgers. You might not want me flipping burgers and if you want them to be tasty and eat them. But yes, we will be present and accounted for. I'll lift some tables and do some other cool things. I might juggle swords or something like that. But yeah, you don't want me flipping the burgers.
Yep. So yep. And and we're coming up on the show. So if anybody's got questions, post them now.
Yeah.
Let's finish this off with your thoughts. I hear keyboards typing everywhere.
Do you? Well, you know, I think people are just kind of taking it in, and it's hard. We're still in an era of being canceled for what you think and what you believe. I will tell you, I am divergent in some of the things that Mark said earlier, and that doesn't stop me from working with Mark. And that's where we have to get to. You know, you talk about bipartisanship, and well, not you, but you'll hear that politically and whatnot. And there is a place that we can meet in the middle on some things, even though we may be far apart on others. And it's just the intentionality of saying, you know what, I can see you as a human being. We have to find a way to solve these issues of our time, and they're huge. And how can I exist and thrive knowing that my fellow man is suffering in the way that they are? So that's kind of my comment in the chat.
Yep. And there's two words that I think of about this. One is respect. We use that word in a lot of ways, but we just need to respect each other and respect each other's stories and respect each other's histories, because we cannot possibly know what the other person has gone through, what their experiences are, and how they got where they are. So you just have to respect that they got there in the best way they can.
You know, I think there's an accountability piece too that's missing also. So we can cancel folks, but holding each other accountable was really important also.
Yep. And then the other one is the commonality. You know, besides all of the stuff being thrown out about our differences, we are far more in common than we have different.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, you know, another good show as usual. Again, I apologize for starting a little late today, but for Mark Boatwright-Frost, I am Marwan Cameron. This is The Conduit. This show is Tipping Points and Puzzle Pieces, the best hour of your day. We'll see you next week.